Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host tonight. How to fight CPS and stop taking our children. I'm glad I found the right room. I was really concerned because the room that I was showing was an older room, but my show producer fixed it. So hopefully this is the right one. It does say fight CPS, stop taking our children. Now, this is a warm welcome to all of you. Welcome, Jesse Lakes. You're from Missouri. Great, Jesse. And what city or county are you from, Jesse? Warm welcome to Jesse goes out. I have Faye on my line. She's going to come on the show and talk about her latest development with her fighting CPS and where she wrongly has been lose a child. So I'm going to let her talk in a few minutes here as soon as I go through how you can interact with this podcast. Jesse Lake says, "Hey, Bob, do you know me? Bob, I'm the mother of the twins of the director. I hope I'm trying to remember, Jesse. Can you tell me the city and the state you're in? That would be great, Jesse. There's 4 ways that you can interact with this podcast. One is just being in this room and just take notes. You can do emojis like thumbs up, happy faces, hearts. You can also now I remember, Jesse. Now I remember. She says 2 sets of twins, a Missouri director of DCS, CPS adopted one, and still now fighting for the other children, she says. The other children. Yes, I do remember you, Jesse. I'm sorry. I have hundreds of people on here, and I do apologize. Now, being in this podcast, further, what you can do is send me stars if you like this podcast. Please check below if you want to subscribe, and also check the notification button if you may notify when my show's on. So I warmly welcome you all, but that's the first way. The second way is to, if you want to interact with podcasts, is you can text messages, either with comments or questions. You can do that section right now. And all you need to do is show your name, your city or your county, and your state. And if you're from outside the United States, you're still your first name and your city and your state or province and country. This is open worldwide. So I have about 15 countries that participate in here. And I really am open to anybody that has trouble with the CPS. The Child Protection System is what I call the branch of social service that deals with the protection of abuse and neglect of our children. Further, not only is supposed to provide protection, they're supposed to give family aid in the areas of food, shelter, transportation, education, medical, and hopefully get a job, and clothing too. I don't want to forget that. And then they're also supposed to do family reunification. If they find it's necessary to break apart your family and put them into foster care or one of your family members, they need to do family reunification. I think CPS has forgotten that part. So anyway, that is, and then try to tell me something about your case. Something simple, your family makeup, the ages of the children, the sexes of the children, what they were alleged that happened to them in more detail than neglect or abuse, and how were the children taken, and where you at in your case. Now, the third way of doing the interacting with this podcast is to be a guest on my podcast. Now, to be a guest on my podcast, you're going to email Grace at grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. All you have to do is put one of my show times that you want to be on. Now, I'm on Sunday through Monday, 7 days a week, twice a day. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time and 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time. There are certain days that I have different times, and I'll tell you about them. Right now, I'm trying to work out for tomorrow because I need to come on earlier because I got a family function I have to do involving my family, my son. And then on Friday night, I have Friday Night Lights football, and I usually come on at 4 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock on Friday. I'll let you know more about that. Saturday, I'm on at 8 o'clock because Vincent, who just heard him speak, has a very important Zoom podcast with question and answers that he will have. And then Sunday, I'm on at 8 o'clock because I go to church. And so those are the different times. So you just listen, I will let you know. So anyway, put that in the email to Grace, and she will gladly send you the link and get you on, explain to what to do and not to do. I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. And she will tell you that things like no eating or smoking on the podcast, and then no names of children, judges, or social workers. And she will help you out there. Please email to grace@vincentwdavis.com. I want to thank Grace very much for what she does behind the scenes and helps out with this podcast. Lastly, is I put my phone number up because you can call in, and I put you on speakerphone at 626-698-0990. That's 626-698-0990. And I only speak to one person at a time. The other number you see on my screen, at 888-888-6582, is my law office. This is of Vincent W. Davis Associates. If you want any attorney in law, you can call that office. Make sure you tell them that Bob Pace sent you. You can also retain Mr. Davis. I have other programs that help you too. If you are a guest on my podcast, you get a free 15-minute private consultation, Mr. Davis. If you call in and on speakerphone, you get a free 15-minute consultation. All you have to do is tell me you want to when I ask you, and I'll set you up so that you get that. So those are the 4 ways to be on here. And as I say, I have Faye Manley, who is a single mother who been in out foster care for 5 times as a child and as a teenager. She grew up, she got a high school degree, and then she got a degree in nursing. I'm really proud of what she had to go through because she went through molestation and went through abuse and rape and torture and a whole list of things. It was sad. And so when she started to have children as an adult, she has a son who she does have with her, who's a special needs boy, but she's trying to get guardianship of him. She had a daughter, but they wouldn't let her keep her daughter, and they can never give her a reason. And so how can she be fit for one child, not fit for the other? So She's been trying to work really hard over the years, trying to fight the cabinet, what they call them in Richmond, Kentucky. And she's had some distressing news the other day about her fight with CPS. You'd like to talk more about that, Faye?
So I've been trying to have my case that was handled by DCBS in Kentucky reopened and looked at again. The Ombudsman's office, I had put complaints in for over a decade about how my case was handled and how my children were treated, how I was treated, and all of the dirty things that was done in my case in order for them to ultimately do what they did to me and my children. The Ombudsman's office is known for being very corrupt in Kentucky, hence the reason why the Kentucky State Auditor, Allison Ball, had it moved out of the Cabinet for Health and Family Services office into her office, supposedly to bring more accountability and to be more transparent and so on and so forth. But what the mistake that she made was carrying them same people who were employed while it was in the cabinet to the new office. So it's basically the same people doing the same things they've been doing for decades. So it's really not more accountable or more transparent. So they opened my case up, which stemmed from 2001 through 2015 through two different cases. Also my mother's cases. After their attorney reviewing them, of course, they said from 2001 to 2015, there was no violations or procedures that were violated in my case. But here's with that. If that were the case, then basically they're telling me that they see no problem or no error or no procedural violation in them taking my 5-month-old child and putting it in the home of 3 convicted felons, 3 substantiated child abusers, and a sex offender. So, which this is the norm for the cabinet in Kentucky, really, because they have a history of doing that. Placing children in the homes with sex offenders. There was a social worker in Kentucky named Patricia Moore that ended up getting fired because she was not willing to place 2 foster children under her caseload in a adoptive home where the people were trying to adopt them because they were letting sex offenders babysit the foster children. But her supervisor pushed for her to place them there, and when she didn't and refused, they fired her. Well, she went and she filed a whistleblower lawsuit and came out with all the dirty details of what the cabinet was doing and sued them for over $480,000, and she won. And she was able to keep her license and continue to be a social worker. So it's not uncommon. And it's not uncommon for the Ombudsman's office to, anytime someone places a complaint about the cabinet, them to come back and say they found no errors. So they found no errors in the cabinet and the judge or any players involved in that with not allowing me to attend my own court hearings, having them without me, not allowing me to participate in them, and then coming to a decision without me being allowed to call witnesses, without me being able to cross-examine anyone, and them lying on the stand and in their own affidavits. So there was no errors, though. But, I wasn't shocked. It really upset me, but I wasn't shocked because this is the way it's always been in Kentucky with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, aka CPS, and the Ombudsman's office.
Now, how did it end with the conversation with them?
It didn't end well. I'll just leave it at that. I won't go into the details about that.
Okay. That's a really hard burden. Faye has been trying so hard. I think it's probably 13 years or.
Well, yeah, ever since my case closed in 2015. But
Okay.
my case, I've been fighting since, 2001, because now I'm still having a hard time getting them to give me guardianship of my adult son.
Now, what is the reason why they can't give you guardianship of your adult son?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay. Now, that's a part of adult services, right?
Yep.
Now, I know there's the child protection services they call the cabinet. What do they call the adult services there in Richmond?
It's all the same thing. It's just a different division of it.
Is it just called adult services?
Mm-hmm.
And is that person that runs CPS runs that part too?
I mean, it's all the same entity. It's just a different department.
So they're not really different social workers or different things. So whether you're in adult services or in children, the children's services.
Different workers handle the adult and elderly end of it than the children one, but they're still all the same entity.
Yeah, but if you went up the line, does it do any good to talk to other entities or not?
No, it don't.
Okay. That's sad. That is a real sad case. I know that she's also tried to go to the news media outlets, and share her story. And I'm surprised that no one in your city of Richmond would love to air that on the show to help you, because if she got national attention in the media, they may help her out and recognize it. And I know that Faye and I did call the Capitol and asked to speak to a particular senator. It was interesting. They do have an operator there that will help you with the number, but they don't return calls. It's like everything else, it seems like, in life. That's the one pet peeve I have in life, is no one returns phone calls. People make phone calls and people have a bad habit of not returning them. And it should be really important, no matter what business you're in. You should return the phone call. I always make it an important thing for me to get back to people. So where do you go from here, Faye? What do you do now?
I'm not really sure, Bob, because my case is, 10 years old, and statute of limitations is spent. So basically they just got away with stealing a child.
Yeah, but I heard you say something about there's things that will void statute of limitations if it's something that is extremely wrong that they did.
Well, there is, but it would be extremely complicated for me to try to go about doing that myself.
Okay.
And I don't have $30,000 to give an attorney, so.
Yeah, it's sad because you would really think that someone would hear this and want to take your case on, especially if it's a well-to-do attorney.
Oh, it would make them a lot of money. I tell them that.
Yeah.
It would make them a lot of money.
So
and I don't care about no money. I don't want no money.
Yeah. So any of you are listening out there, any attorneys are listening, Faye's got a real good case that you could do a civil lawsuit against them. You could sue them for millions of dollars for what they're doing to her. I know that's not going to help bring her child back. She wants her child to know this. She wants her child to know that she loves her child and she was not her fault that she had to give him up for adoption. She wants that girl, and how old is she now?
She's 12.
All right, she wants that 12-year-old girl to grow up and realize that she had a mother that really cared for her, that her mother did not abandon her and did not give her up. She has fought very valiant for her. So all she wants to do is let that child know. She doesn't want to take the child back because the child is already bonded foster care, right?
Well, she's bonded to the family that she's with, and I understand that. all we're wanting is to be able to have communication with her, and for my son and his sister to have visitations, and for me and her to have visitations with each other. It doesn't have to be without the foster mom or adoptive mother being able to cause any issues with it, but I don't know how we could go about doing it, because like I said, I mean, she's bonded to that family and everything, but I mean, my daughter has a right to know who we are, and to know that she has a family out there that loved her, and she has a right to know the truth, and to not live with the lies that she's being told by the foster adoptive mother.
I think any family deserves that. Any family deserves that.
We just want to be able to let her know who we are, and that let her know how hard I fought for her. I just didn't have the resources to beat the cabinet.
Yeah. Well, I hope whoever's out there listening that there's some way they can share or help out Faye, because she's been on my show for a good 6 months, and she has really helped me with a lot of different areas. She wants to help out other parents with their CPS matters too. Now, Jessica Lake, who is from Missouri, has 4 children. She's been on before, but things really gotten bad for her. Let me start again with Jessica Lake, and maybe there's some ideas you might know, Faye, that can help her. Let me see. Jessica first started off with, I'm from Missouri. Okay, I got that part. That was good. She further said she has 2 sets of twins, and the Missouri director of CPS adopted 1 set, now fighting for the other ones. So that is really kind of sad that the director would take her children. Now, she further said, sort of like your case, she's kind of like given up. And she says, it's a letdown and a dirty shame. Yes, it is, especially when there's corruption. And for some of you that may or may not know, that CPS is very corrupt, very corrupt. Over 500 people I've talked to around the country and around the world. I just had the gentleman from Liberia call on the morning show, and it was good to hear from him. He's involved in Scouts, and he's from Liberia, and he's been on and off for a very long time. But it seems like even the countries are having problems too. And what is happening is CPS is not being transparent. There's no accountability. Right now, Richmond is investigating where $1 million disappeared with CPS. They found 400,000 of it, and they have a guy as being charged as pilfering the funds, but they don't know where the other 600,000 is. But it seems like there's no accountability, no transparency. The money is given freely from the federal government to the state, who in turn freely gives it to the county. All the county has to say is they need X number of dollars. Now, with my case, and I was in Orange County, my 3 children were trafficking, kidnapped, and alienated, and they were getting $20,000 per child per month. That's $60,000. And if you did that with 100 parents and each having 3 children, that's over $6 million. So that's a lot of money. It's actually, they make money in the trillions of dollars, not billions, not millions, but trillions. And they have been so spoiled with all these incentives and bonuses that the social workers themselves are just become totally greedy, totally obsession. They don't have a license. Well, in Kentucky, they're supposed to have a license, but they don't seem to have a license, or they're not enforced to have a license. In California, they don't need a license, but they don't even have a college degree or a high school diploma. And right now, they're entrusted with our families. That is scary. They have individuals, and they don't even follow. There's no mentor program. I think they should all spend at least 10 years with another social worker to learn how to deal with social matters. For them to start going ahead and start separating your family and taking away your family is wrong. Children, the best parents are the biological parents, and the children need their mom and dad. And it's so sad because you have countless people like Faye who did nothing wrong. It's not her fault she was in foster care, and it's not her fault that she had to go through that. But she's a survivor. She got her high school. I don't know how she got her high school degree, but she got it. And she got a college degree in nursing, and she's worked as a registered nurse. And she's a good mother to her son, who's a special needs boy. She takes care of him, and he's in his 20s, and she's trying to get guardianship of him. He wants his mother to be guardian of him. And I'm so sorry that all of you are going through this. I know there's other stories out there like Jessica Lake. She's so discouraged. And I'm sorry that Jessica from Missouri. Is there something we can help you out with, Jessica? Is there something that we could say or deal with? Now, I have 5 rules, and I've talked to them from time to time. They're related to my case. My case was an awful case. Unfortunately, I was involved in CPS. But what happened to me is that I had lay people call in and make false allegations against me and my wife that we weren't feeding our children, we weren't housing our children, we weren't cleaning our children, we weren't giving them clothes, we weren't taking them to school, etc., etc. And this went on for 5 years, reported by my wife's mother and father, her 3 sisters, and her brother. Would call in once a week and say something that wasn't true. And I had to, for 5 years, tell them it's not. Actually, I had them in the house several times, and they saw none of it was true. But after 5 years, they got tired of it, and they wanted to retaliate. So they got a hold of the local police, and they had an investigator follow me from when I pick up my children, follow me, and then force me to drive home and open up my home. Unfortunately, my parents were dying. My dad had died, and I'd just recently taken their belongings into my home, and I was sorting the belongings. I had them in one room of my house, which was the living room. The formal dining room where 8 people could sit and eat was fine. There's nothing in there. The kitchen was fine. The breakfast nook was fine. The family room was fine. And then there was the downstairs study, extra bedroom, and computer room, and that was fine. Then upstairs, each child had their own room, own bathroom, and we had our own bedroom. So the things that they were saying that, oh, you can't have the stacks or boxes of furniture or boxes of things, they're going to cause neglect to your children. That's what they charged me. Not only did they charge neglect, they said they were in danger. So they immediately took them out of school and put them further in danger because they were turned to the shelter, which is next to the Bureau of Juvenile Prisons there, and juveniles are serving time there, and their play yard opens to the shelter's play yard, and so they can be exposed to criminals, juvenile criminals. It was sad. They had a bee's nest that had gotten active that could have stung the children. The food was terrible. It was overcrowded. It was a miserable experience. I eventually got them to stay with my in-laws, but they could only handle them for so long, and they had to give them up. It takes a lot of work if you have 3 children at 3 different schools and you're dropping them off and you're picking them up. There's no question it takes a lot of work to raise, 6 children. That's what we had, was 6 children. Granted, the 3 older ones weren't around when they moved out, and they weren't around when we had our 3 young ones. We were blessed to have 6 children. Children, to me, are the spice of life. I mean, the smiles on the face, the excitement. I remember when they were quite young, my little ones would line up and say, "Lift me, Daddy, lift me, Daddy." I'd come home, and our Siberian Huskies would moan in the neighborhood because they recognized the car sound. And then the kids would line up on the stairway and wanted to be lifted up and be held and hugged by their dad because I was gone. They wanted to tell me about their school and so forth. I was a loving dad, and so was their mother. We both had issues that we needed to resolve out, but we were good parents. We're not as bad parents as her parents were saying that we were. And they were only trying to take our children because they wanted to adopt our 3 young ones. They were beautiful, and they wanted 3 more children. I don't know if it's because all the children grew up and moved out. I don't know why people want children later in life. I think they're great, but it's a lot of work. And so it can be a lot of work. But I had 3 that were taken illegally from me and then put in shelter group homes, told not to love and not to put hands around the hugs. Their hugs were hands to the side. They were not allowed to hug. And that's wrong. They did everything they could to alienate the parents from the children and vice versa. They never told the children what the parents were doing, and the parents were never told what the children were doing. There's no communication. It was like they take. And my youngest son was scolded because he drank too much orange juice. And they would do all kinds of retaliating things. They made my both boys feel so sad about life. One of them just recently told me how bad it was. They have to be dealing with that. It's a real sorry existence. Foster care do more than take care of the children. They rob the children. They abuse the children. There's so many cases I've heard of foster parents hurting the child, pinching them, or their own children abusing the children or being bullies. That's another thing that people forget. These foster parents have their own children, and those own children are just as rough on the children as the foster care are. And it's sad because history repeats itself, and they see that and they think that's the normalcy. It isn't normal to do what they do. It isn't normal. So they proceeded to fight with me. I had a court-appointed attorney, but it didn't work out because a court-appointed attorney never had time. He had a caseload of 30 or more clients, and he wasn't experienced in dependency juvenile law. He only had a criminal law background, and there's nothing that he would do. He would just sit there and go with the flow. He wouldn't fight for your rights or anything like that. So the court-appointed attorney wasn't that good. It really wasn't that good. Again, I reach out to all of you that if you have a topic you want me to talk about, Jesse Lake, if you have more questions, I'd gladly help you. She's from Missouri. Faye, who's on the line with me, just told me about her tragic story, her letdown and everything, and she's from Richmond, Kentucky. And I did find out a person used to be on this podcast named Danielle Vaughn. She's getting her son back at the end of this week. I hope that's true. She has a son that was lost in the system who is over the age of 18. He should be able to do what he wants as an adult. He wants to be adopted by his mother because he has special needs. So they're taking their time, but I guess they're eventually going to give back her son the latter part of this month here in November. Maybe home for Thanksgiving. I hope that's a guess. That's a thing is Thanksgiving's coming up. It's a hard one for me because my family's so broken apart now. Usually what I do on Thanksgiving is I go out to the community and volunteer as a helper to serve food. It's a nice thing to do. It's really uplifting to see smiles on families that don't have Thanksgiving. So I do try to get involved with that. Now, one of the rules I briefly touched on was a lawyer. And I know that the public defender is free and you don't have much money, and a real attorney takes a retainer. But maybe there's some creative financing you can do. Maybe there's a house you own you could sell or take a credit line on your house. Or maybe there's a short-term loan or something there. I had to sell my house to get my kids back to hire Mr. Davis. And I'm glad I did. I do miss my home. I had worked for a long time with my home. And my home took me something like 45 years. I mean, in 2010, I got the home sooner than that, but I'd already worked 45 years and lost my job at age 60. And right now I'm a dinosaur and I'm still trying to find a job out there. I need to get a job because it's so expensive to maintain a family. And I still take care of my wife and my 2 boys. It is a hard thing. And that's why I had to get a real attorney, somebody like Mr. Davis, who is very experienced and schooled in juvenile family dependency law. He's a trial attorney. He's been doing it for over 35 years fighting CPS. He can fight CPS and get your children back. In fact, when your case is closed, he's done lawsuits, many of them, and won millions of dollars back from the state and from the federal government with claims he brought against people that are supposed to provide, they don't provide. So getting an attorney is like open heart surgery. If you're going to have open heart surgery on your body, you're going to get yourself a professional doctor. That's why you need an attorney to fight CPS, because you need to navigate. And Mr. Davis is one of those attorneys. And he knows he's a pit bull. And right now he's got cases in Orange County, LA County, San Bernardino County, and Northern California. He's got a case in Oklahoma. He will go to other states. And he's a fighter. He will get your child back. There's no question about that. And so as long as the system is corrupt, he's there to help you. He's there to help you. He's also a trial attorney. He can do trials, which is really important there. And he's won trillions of dollars. I shouldn't say trillions, millions of dollars with civil lawsuits, both at the state and at the federal level. The state and the federal level. So if you can, Get yourself an attorney. You can get Mr. Davis, and as I say, there's several ways you can talk to him. One way is just to be a guest on my podcast or call in, and you'll have a 15-minute free consultation with Mr. Davis. Another way is to go to a website, and if you want to speak to him for 30 minutes, he only charges you $60. You go to Candidly, you go to https:// Candidly, CALENDLY.com / apps, APTTS, VWD. Oh boy, I forgot that part there. VWD at VWD. Oh, at apps, APTTS, VWD / Bob Pace, BOBPACE. Geez, tonight, I don't know why my body keeps going in and out of the screen. Maybe I'm not sitting right. I don't know. I'm usually sitting with my back against this chair with the cushion, so I need to adjust the cushions better. Well, maybe tilt the screen back. Okay. So there you can reserve 30 minutes for $60 and speak to Mr. Davis. Further, you will find and will see how important it is to get your children back. He knows the methods. A lot of things he's taught me, and a lot is from my experience with my family. And I had hired him, and he did get my two boys back. So try to get yourself a bona fide family a juvenile dependency lawyer. And that'll make a big difference in your case. As I say, it's like open heart surgery. You want a professional. And you're dealing with a crazy social service. You're like Alice in Wonderland. You fell in the rabbit hole and you're going from room to room. You met the Chester cat and she sends you in different directions. You go nowhere. So it's important. It's really important that you get yourself a bona fide attorney. You'll thank me for it when you do. Now, rule number 2 is to organize. As I said, get yourself a notebook. It's 8.5 by 11, and you should stuff it full of notebook, college rule notebook paper. Get yourself dividers, subject dividers, and divide all your court paperwork up into different groups. And one of the things I told you was important to talk about was a timeline incident log. What that is that you record anytime you talk to a family member or you talk to a relative or the CPS social worker or the police. And what you do is the first line, you type in the date, the time, and the people you talk, and the location and the people you talk to. Then you do a 1-minute summary of the sentence about what the issue is and then your outcome. And if you don't have the outcome, give a couple space and come back to it. It's very important. But you could do this with that instant log, and you'll know where you're at 6 months from now, a year from now. You're going to be in the CPS at least 3 years. I was in there 3 years. 5 years, they were hassling me, and then they took my children, and from 2015 to the end of 2017 is when my kids were returned at Christmas time.
It was 4 years for me.
Wow, 4 years. I didn't realize that. 4 years, jeez.
And then the first time they did it with my oldest child, when they gave my biological mom, which was my abuser, my child, it was a 3.5-year fight. So either way, it's going to be 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I think you're so right about that.
Unless you got a really good attorney that is not afraid to be a bulldog, you might get your kid back quicker.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. The notebook could also be divide your court papers and all your other things like your parenting classes you take, your certificates, and then your programs you take, like a drug rehab program or an alcohol rehab program, etc. So you could have your programs and your parenting classes put in that notebook. Also, you want to put all your court documents in there too. You want everything so it's all centralized in one notebook, and you can carry that around with you and be a lot better. I was bad. I'd put them on Post-it notes and envelopes. It was going nowhere. It was going nowhere. Now, rule number 3 is the one that is real tricky because sometimes people have problems with that. What I mean by that is rule number 3 is when someone comes knocking at your door, you shouldn't answer the door because you don't know who it is. And lately, people have been shot and killed at point blank by opening the door, or shot in the face arguing with a police officer. You don't need to deal with people in your home. It's your castle. It's your right. And a lot of times, family members will let people in. That means they gave them permission by letting them in. Or they muscle their way past. It's like Faye was telling me about a case where the mother was outside and the grandmother let the policeman into the home. So it's really one of those things are when you're dealing with CPS workers or police outside, the best way to get away from them is say, when they start want to talk to you or go in your home or something like that, is you say, I need to get my attorney present. Because you're allowed, your civil rights and your amendment are allowed to have representation anytime you're in a legal matter at all times. So you have a right to have your attorney present. So all you have to do is tell them, excuse me, I can't talk much further because I need my attorney here. And what is your name? And let me see your ID badge to make sure that's the right name, or the policeman's badge to get the right number down. Because what you don't want to do is talk to them. You end up, everything you say will be used against you and you'll slip up. If you let them in your home, they may see things you don't want them to see. You know, that's why attorneys would say never let them in your home. You need an attorney to follow the advice of the attorney. And it's sad, but they will take advantage of the situation. Their goal is to get your child into the system so they can start collecting money. That's what it is. It's money to them. They don't care about you as a human being. And I'm sorry to say that to you, but I've only met 3 social workers that have come on my show. One was Carol from Maryland, who talked for a good 40 minutes, and she was a clinical psychiatrist. You know, she got educated like that in college. And then she had training, she said, in Maryland. This is a Maryland social worker. And she painted a dreamy picture, well, where parents are giving their children back. But she was shocked to hear me tell about that they weren't. Anyway, I hope that she does call again. Then there was another lady that was actually a foster care parent, but did not want to do adoption, only wanted to house the kids. And that was nice. It was nice talking to them about that. And so another one was a third-party social worker where they were hired out But she did conclude that, yes, CPS is corrupt. They're corrupt because they take money and they look the other way. They turn their backs. It's like right now, Faye was so excited because supposedly they had a new face on Richmond and a new ombudsperson and a new civil rights or a new cabinet. And all of a sudden now it's the same old, same old. They're trying to cover themselves. They know they had done Faye bad. They know they had done her bad, and that was wrong. That was wrong. So don't let them in your home. And another thing, too, you don't have to surrender your child unless you give them permission or there's domestic violence happening in your home. Let's say some people are fighting with guns and knives, or a husband and wife are fighting or arguing. You don't argue in front of children. But they will come in and make sure everybody's safe, because it gets out of hand and arguments get when they hold the gun or knife or anything like that. So you got to be careful of that too. So the third way is if you get a warrant. Now, a warrant is different. A warrant is a court document that explains what they can do and what they can't do. So you may get a warrant that specifically says your name and your wife, whoever is involved in the case, will be listed. Also list the names of the children and what your allegations are. And so with that all said right there, they're going to end up trying to take your children away from you. And that's the sad part of things. That's the sad part. And I'd like to change that, because the best parents are the biological parents. The best parents are the biological parents. Then there's a part of thing called medical trafficking. Now, medical trafficking is hard because you got a child that's sick and you take them to the hospital, either to urgent care, or if urgent care is closed, you take them to emergency care. And then there happens to be a social worker there who will listen in or take information and try to take your child from you based on incomplete facts and stuff. So you got to be careful. If you encountered a social worker, don't talk to them. Tell them you have to talk to your attorney. You may not have one, but they don't know that. They don't know that if you don't have an attorney. Another part of medical trafficking is when a mother has a child. You got to make sure you have that room set up ahead of time with specific instructions that nobody outside can come into the room, including police or social workers. A lot of times they'll come in and take the child still with the mother connected to the umbilical cord. It's very gross how aggressive they can be. What you need to do is tell the hospital staff you don't want any social workers. You don't want them in your room. You don't want the police room. It's your amendment right to have this quiet time with your doctors who explained what was wrong with your child or vice versa. But because you said something may be a grounds for them to take your child, which is wrong. So be really, really careful. Be really, really, really careful with medical trafficking. Now, the fourth one is that you want to research the internet. You want to really look at the internet for information about your case. It's very important how you word it. Start off with the city or cities. If it's like Athens, you may want to put Atlanta. So Athens and Atlanta, Georgia. Then you want to put capital letters CPS. That alerts that the matter is about child protection system. And then then you put in what you want to look for. Like you want to look for how to fight CPS, or how to get your children back, or what are the statute of limitations about something. You want to spend that 40 to 60 hour a week there being authoritative. And that's how you learn. That's how I got a lot of information. You learn about the ICWA Act of 1978. You learn about the 388 motion. You learn about a lot of things in there. So it is hard. It is hard when you have medical trafficking. For the research. The research you want to follow after the city and the state, you want to follow with the subject of what you're looking for. So that's how you phrase your question. You can do that. And spend a good amount of time, because everything you need to know is on the internet. Now, lastly, is your folder of your important documents. Faye, would you like to talk about that, since you're the one that came up with that?
Well, one of the things that I feel that's very important, because I went through it in my case, is one of the first things CPS does when they open a case against you is they want you to tell them where your children go to the doctor at, who their physician is, and all of that stuff. And the reason they want that information is so that they can call up that doctor's office and put a freeze on the medical records, so that they can have the records, but you can't. So they can go in those medical records and they could say anything's in those records and put it in their court reports, and it may or may not be true. And if it's not true, you can't access those records, so therefore you can't dispute it. So in my opinion, you need to have all records, mental health records, your primary care physician records for you and your children in your home in a file. Because if not, they can access them through subpoenas and court orders, and they can put freezes on it at the doctor's offices where you can't access them. So, and then the other issue that happens a lot is if, you just had a baby and you haven't even had time to get a birth certificate or a social security card for that baby. A lot of times what happens is that, or even if you do have a birth certificate and a social security card, the cabinet will want you to give them yours. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't give them yours, because then later on what happens is depending on how your case goes, if they decide against you and decide they're going to keep your children and adopt them out, they'll have all the original birth certificates and social security cards, and then once the child is considered TPR'd, you won't have any records that those children belong to you.
Yeah, those are good comments there, Faye. I really appreciate you coming up with that. That's an important folder to carry with you. Don't forget to put your marriage certificate, copies of driver's license, things like that. All the important documents you'll need to show them, because a lot of times they'll ask for that. So this brings me to closure. I want to thank everybody tonight that has expressed opinion. I want to thank hearing from Jesse Lake from Missouri. We also had a thumbs up from Lori Hiller. I know you've been in my room silently for a long time. Thank you for that, Lori. And the rest of you, I hope to see you all tomorrow or the next day or so forth. A little bit about show times. Tomorrow I'll be on at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour. Then at 4 o'clock, I'll come on instead at 7 Thursday because of a event that my son has to go to. It being Halloween, and it's the event they got to be someplace. So that's good. And then at Friday, it's Friday Night Lights with high school football. And definitely my son will be involved in that. And I'll be coming on the show at 4 o'clock on Friday. Then Saturday, Vincent's show is on at 10 o'clock, and I'll be coming on at 8 o'clock. And Sunday, I'll be coming on 8 o'clock because of church. That's my schedule. My night times will stay at 7 o'clock, except for Thursday night and Friday night, but Saturday and Sunday they'll be at 7 o'clock. So tomorrow it's 10 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. God bless y'all. Do not give up. And I will see you tomorrow. And thank you, Faye, for sharing a very frustrating situation that you have. And I know God's working over you, and hopefully God will help you get what you want and so forth. So I'm going to say good night and finish off with Mr. Davis's blurb by coming up this Saturday. Listen carefully and remember, there is 2 websites you need to copy down in there. God bless y'all and good night. This is Bob and Faye signing off.
Hi, I'm Attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.